Is everyone's mic on?
Yes.
Testing 1, 2.
You want to pull that Elvis number, sir?
Well, it's a one for the money. How's that?
Thank you all for coming. Call this meeting now to order, and I will ask you please to now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation.
Salute. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Divine Father, who sits in heaven, looking down upon us this evening, we want to thank you for Jesus, who died that we may have the privilege. We thank you for this city and for these citizens who are serving tonight. Those that serve on our city council, those that serve the fire department, those that serve as the chief of police, those that serve as firemen, those that serve as 2 school teachers, those who serve every day with no thanks. We thank you for them. We praise you for the men around the world, our military men who fight in areas they never heard of, defending our rights to be the first, to be the best country in the world. We pray for America. We pray for every city, for every school, for every home, for every citizen, that you have blessed America like never before. God, please have blessed America. We need you to now like never before. But election coming up, we need decent men who stand for right, integrity, and that which will benefit the entire nation. We pray for our president, Trump. We ask you to give him wisdom and knowledge and protect him as he served. We pray you, Father, for America. Bless America, start with California City. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember McGuire.
Here.
Paris.
Here.
Stump.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Gomez.
Here.
Mayor Wood.
Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda, please?
Make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, any reports or late communications?
Yes, sir. First one dated October 16th. These are both from JM Powers. Missing up to $1.5 million in general fund revenue budget lines for 2018-19 budget. October 17th, why the promise of eliminating this parcel tax after Measure C is false. Then on the table, there's copies of those along with a cannabis tax revenue analysis from Mr. Hudson, and those are all available. That's it.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Tonight we have a presentation from our city treasurer, Mr. Keith Middleton.
Good evening, council and staff and our great audience. It's on. Our finances haven't changed much between August and September. We do have another checking account that I opened up and moved some money into, and not reported here is we moved $1 million down to our general account, and I don't know how I missed it on the report, but that's to meet our current obligations. So in the local agency fund, actually, is $1 million less than is reflected here, and that did go into the September dollar amount. Other than that, we're moving right along. If there's any questions.
Yes. In August, did you also move $1 million?
Yes. That. Yes. In August, it was to pay our CalPERS obligation, and September is just because the taxes didn't come in and whatnot to a sufficient amount to handle all of our obligations.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Middleton. Now we will move on to staff announcements and reports. Our Chief Hurtado.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I'll be real short. After we're up to a little over 17,000 calls for this year so far. Since we last met, we responded to 725 calls. the latest and the biggest that is of concern. Well, after 3 today, we responded to a reported disturbance at an apartment building. Was a caller. They said that somebody was involved in an argument. They gave a detailed description of this person that was involved, acting strange, and the caller said that the person was armed with a handgun and was running towards RPU school. This was shortly after 3 today. We got there in about 60 seconds. Found a person matching that description. Detained him. Did find a weapon on him. It was not a firearm, or at least no firearms have been found yet. But he did have a large concealed knife on him. He has prior probation terms, and we'll give out more information a little bit later. And he was taken into custody. We had to immediately called the school, RPU, once the person was spotted. We asked him to do an emergency lockdown. The school announced a locked down the students and staff. I understand we had some parents concerned as to why they couldn't get their children out of class during the lockdown, with the police cars out in front, with the bad guy out in the front parking lot. So the school's going to be sending out a teleparent message tonight to all the parents at RPU, explaining what happened and the precautions that the school uses for the safety of the staff and most importantly the children there. And that's it.
Does the school inform the parent as these things are happening?
They usually will. There was I was on the phone with the superintendent as soon as the person was in handcuffs. So within 2 minutes, we were discussing what was happening and what the safety was, concerns for the school, to make sure that this was the only person we were concerned about. And once that was resolved, then the school was lifted. I don't think they had any delay letting out, maybe a minute. It was a very short-term lockdown.
Okay, thank you, Chief. And to our other chief now, Chief Goodell.
Good evening, council persons, Mayor Pro Tem, staff persons, and citizens. Let's see, code enforcement data, new cases 17, closed cases 21, citations issued 23, complaint forms received 14. To the fire department side, we had 3 fires, 78 EMS/rescue calls, 3 service calls, 10 good intents, 5 false calls. Let's see. First things first, we were one of only 3 cities and special districts throughout Kern County, probably 50, 60 of them, who responded correctly and expediently to the most recent Emergency Operations Center drill. Pretty critical. If they need to reach out and touch us for assistance or vice versa, or just cooperate in getting things done, we need to know who to contact and how to do that. So that because of that, I was sort of promised by Georgiana that we would be getting some preferred treatment as far as grants and stuff like that. And that's a good thing, to maintain that connection, a very, very, very good thing. And last but not least, we purchased a reserve engine to be the reserve behind the Seagrave. And we're going to assess things and find out which one is most serviceable while we're waiting for our new one. And got a real good deal on it. We did the math on it, and had we gotten the lease deal, we actually would have paid about 12% more, and we wouldn't have owned it. So now we own this one, 500-gallon tank, 1,500 gallon per minute pump, a lot of compartment space. Little short on hose, but we're working on that as far as the space for the hose, but should accommodate our needs real well.
What is it, 2006 Seagrave?
It's a 2006 American LaFrance.
American France, okay. And 90,000 miles, right?
97,549. So
There's nothing on that.
It's real nice. I just followed it up from Fountain Valley, and it even made the Escondido Pass coming up 14 at about 52 miles an hour with a full tank. Not all the accoutrements and accessories, but with a full tank of water, which is 6,200 pounds, over 3 tons. So we're real tickled with it.
Thank you, Chief.
I have a question. Yeah, how much did we pay for this? I didn't even know about it.
$44,213.90. It's right at about $44,000 out the door.
Okay.
Anyone else? Huh? Public Works Director Platt.
Mayor, Council, and audience. The short report for the water system is mainline repairs. We've 12. One failure, 22 services been replaced, 40 meters. The second phase is starting, which I believe is the 98th. 98th or 94th. 98th would be that next little piece that would tie into the original 12 that was done with the project in 2006, which would complete a 12 all the way through at least to Poppy, and then we'll do the Poppy section, which go all the way to Yerba. And that'll be, and then we will fall back and start on the second 12-inch loop through the city, which is off of CCB on the south or north side of the road. We have currently 3 mainline work orders open for main repairs and 5 for service leaks. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Foster, Budget Analyst.
Just a very quick report, Council, public, and staff. Just a quick report to update you that we have some new faces in our utility billing department now here at City Hall. Miss Jessica Alba and Lilia Garcia have both started with us and are doing very well. They've just hit the ground running, so we're very happy to have them. Want to just thank Don Ferguson and Destiny Copeland and Beth Boone for the training. Don will be transferring over to PD next week, so we wish her well, but we really thank her for all her help. So that's my report.
Thank you, Ms. Foster. Ms. Davern, Parks Manager.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and members of the public. First of all, I have some thank yous tonight. We had our concert in the park and our Chalk the Walk, our first Chalk the Walk, this last Saturday. It started at 8 o'clock in the morning, sponsored by the Art Commission. The Chalk the Walk couldn't have been possible without all the hard work of Terry Lucy and Lucinda Thomas. And the concert kicked off from 2 o'clock and ran until about 7. We estimate there's about 500 people throughout the day for the event. And I have some thank yous. We want to thank our sponsors and our volunteers, including High Desert Development, CDCR, Ron and Carlinda Fleming and the boys basketball team. We have CYFS Incorporated, Warren Baltiste volunteered. Kids Corner was done by the Girl Scout troops, 432 and 962. So our community event was a big success, thanks to everybody involved. We hope to do one again soon. Blue Steel was a great band. We really enjoyed the music, too. It was everybody, even the neighbors were complimenting us. They enjoyed it. We have our youth basketball free skills clinic coming up in November. You can get your kids over to the Strata on Wednesday night. This is for ages 7 to 14. And this will let your kids try out the sport of basketball. If they enjoy the sport, we have a youth basketball registration also in November, and then the league kicks off in January. We have our East Kern Healthcare Cancer Walk coming up this coming Saturday. Sign in about 7 o'clock in the morning, kicks off around 8. Come support cancer awareness. All the funds do stay here locally. We have trunk or treat also on Halloween coming up, and we need more trunks. I have some forms here and at the Strata Center, and it was in last week's paper, so we're hoping to get some more trunks for the kids to go trick-or-treating, trunk to trunk. It's a lot of fun. It's a daylight event, and it starts around 4:30. And lastly, we have our Park and Recreation's Holiday Village planning meeting on this Thursday night at 6 p.m. It only lasts an hour from 6 to 7. We get as much done in that time as we can. And the event is actually on November 30th. December 1st is our city tree lighting and parade. And then the event also runs into December 2nd. We definitely need more support and more volunteers and vendors. And it's just a great family event for everybody. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Davern. Mr. City Manager Stockwell.
Members of the council, I introduced to you already Kenny Cooper, our new accountant in the finance department, and for the rest of the people in the audience, Mr. Cooper has just come on board beginning this week and will be with us fulfilling the badly needed vacancy we've had in our accounting operation. So we're very glad to have him here with us. The recruitments that we have going on are many, but we are starting to make some progress. As Cynthia said, we have filled essentially all of the positions in the finance operation. We have the finance director coming on board on November 1st, and the 2 new account clerks, and then also filling one more position there. In the police department, did you go over these, Eric? So in the police department, we have currently 6 sworn officer candidates that are in the process of physical examinations and backgrounds that would help us tremendously if we're able to bring them on board. Hopefully those backgrounds will be completed over the next few weeks. And one candidate is waiting a physical at the end of the month and then should come on board. So we're seeing some progress there. That still leaves us with 6 vacant positions, and the recruitments are open so until filled. So we're looking for as many qualified applicants as we can. Tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. we're meeting here in the council chambers with a group called Baker Energy who is coming to discuss with us the possible alternatives to providing electrical power within the city, specifically for the cannabis industry. So we've invited all those active applicants that we have in the cannabis industry to attend, to bring with them their analysis of their power needs, and this will be an open discussion between the folks from Baker Energy and those in the cannabis industry in the city to find out what might be possible in terms of bringing forward power much more quickly than if we rely, only on the development of the grid by SCE at this point. And so it's we're hopeful that we'll hear some things that will work. As we all know, we got lots of sunshine. And so if we can look at ways to somehow harness solar power and battery storage and a combination of things that would make it possible for some of our businesses to get up and going much more quickly as they get the power brought to them. We continue to work through issues on CEQA compliance and have broken through some of the fog in that one and have been able to get 3 businesses with their CEQA process complete so that they're able to go on and to the next step. But it's important for everyone to recognize that the process for development is complex. And so we're encouraging all the cannabis businesses to be sure to remember that the process ends with the license from the state, and that they need to be paying close attention to that as they go through the process so that they make sure they've touched all the bases there. But we're seeing progress, a better understanding on our part on how best to handle CEQA as it deals with the areas of the city that have been previously disturbed. and hopefully we were able to make some progress with Fish and Wildlife in recognizing some more of the reality of what our property is like here, and hopefully get past some of these issues that in no way endanger the environment. So that's all I have tonight.
Thank you, sir. Yeah.
The Solar Baker Industries, are they going to be here at City Hall, or where is the meeting going to be held?
City Hall, here in the council chambers.
At what time?
It starts at 11.
11 tomorrow?
Right.
Thank you.
So as long as there are no more than 2 council members present, we're fine. And it will probably go for at least 2 hours.
Thank you.
We will now move into AB 134 council updates. Councilman McGuire?
None. None on this one.
Councilman Paris?
I have none.
Stone?
I have none.
No? Okay. I don't have anything either. So then let's move on to civic community organization announcements. Going once? Nothing? Okay, so let's go into public business from the floor. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons desiring to address the city council on any matter not on this agenda and over which the city council has jurisdiction. Please state your name for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Good evening, Al Hudson. I'd send each one of you council members a analysis, the cannabis tax revenue analysis. Have you had the opportunity to review it? And do you have any comments or suggestions on this? Because I pointed out that we need to get the cannabis industry up and going, and it's going to take an additional 43 structures, production structures, established and up and running within the next 5 years to meet the targeted revenue. What does the city plan on doing to assist the developers in getting that done?
Is that your only question, sir?
Oh, no.
Too optimistic, huh?
We talked about outdoor cultivation at the last council meeting. I talked about Flagstaff, Arizona, and I have the magazine here. It's a professional magazine that shows what they're doing over there. And I suggested that the council member or two pay a visit over to Flagstaff, Arizona, and look at their outdoor cultivation facility, because their outdoor cultivation facility includes indoor, outdoor, and a greenhouse, and it allows for the development of about 50,000 square foot, and that's a nice piece of revenue to come in. We've talked about the greenhouse proposal. What are we doing to encourage that to go forward? Because we need to get up off of our hands and get things going.
Anything else, Mr. Hudson?
No, I've got one other thing. On this engineer, this third engineer report that Mr. Platt has insisted that the cannabis people do, what are these stats and where are they from that justify such a ridiculous imposition on the developers? I don't want your opinion. I want to know what facts that you have that support that demand.
Okay. Yeah. Is that your last question, Mr. Hudson?
Well, nope. What are we doing about the 28 cents overcharge on the Measure C?
Couldn't get your money.
Okay.
Now, could I have the questions answered about this engineer's report?
So you want to know,
Works director.
I should probably not comment on the cannabis question. You have anything Anything to add, Mr. City Manager? Regarding moving us forward in that regard? I mean, he already made some statements regarding CEQA.
Well, no, I'm talking about this.
Okay.
Was
that your last question, sir?
No, I'm talking, I wanted to just clarify what you're saying, that this is the requirement of an additional engineer's report after it's been completed by the applicant,
Okay.
by the applicant's engineer.
Okay, so I think that's his last question.
Yeah. That's it.
Mr. Hudson, if you're already through, can you please have a seat, sir?
No answers?
Yes, we're going to get you answers as soon as you have a seat, sir.
Sure, I'll have a seat while you answer my questions.
Broke it again.
Thank you, Mr. Hudson.
Something that I've never heard of, something that we put all of our developers in the same process, staff review, development review, where they bring to us their engineer's drawings, and we go through those and make comments, and if necessary, make modifications, that's the way we go. There's no third report, there isn't a second set of drawings, we just have one set of drawings that changes as we go forward. The council adopted, clarified the encouragement of greenhouses a couple of weeks ago. We are getting comments from several developers that are putting together designs and coming forward, and would encourage them to continue on and bring those to us, because it does take a little longer than 2 weeks to get a project designed and ready to go forward. And so it is being aggressively pursued both by the industry and us at the staff level going forward from there. We reported on the 28 cents error on the parcel tax, and the answer is the same as it was last time. Anyone who wants to refund to the 28 cents simply needs to come to City Hall, show proof that they paid the tax, and we will refund the 28 cents. Otherwise, when we set the tax rate next year, it will be adjusted to compensate for the additional 28 cents that was erroneously placed on the tax bill.
Thank you, sir.
Was his mic on and all? Because people were.
Yeah, I could hear him.
Yes.
Right.
Were you saying something regarding audio?
Yeah, somebody just said there's no sound.
Right. I just got it also, yeah.
Okay, sir, you had a question?
Yeah, the question. I had talked to the city attorney, city manager, and I think you were going to give us a definition of what greenhouses are, because, you know, where do hoop houses end and greenhouses begin? So we really need a definition from the city on what is a greenhouse.
Pretty simple. All you do is go to the building code. There's already a definition of what a greenhouse is, and we're just following what the building code calls for. It's a structure, it's a permanent structure mounted to a concrete foundation, and it has, and it's a greenhouse. And so there's nothing unique about ours. This simply follows the same pattern of a greenhouse built anywhere else in the state. But we'll try and come up with a definition in greater detail than that and get it to you. This is the first I've heard of it.
Yeah, people have asked me, so that's why my question to you.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I think the hoops are portable and the greenhouses are stationary. I think that's basically the down and dirty version.
Okay, anyone else? Public, yes, sir.
Good evening. I'm sorry, I'm sure.
Please state your name, sir.
Oh, my name is Christopher Oseguera.
Chris what?
Christopher Oseguera. Last name Oseguera. And I just had a couple of questions, if you bear with me. I recently had another water increase, and it was due for road repair for some type of infrastructure, which the roads, I mean, in my neighborhood, they have yet to be repaired. And I'd also like to address on how contracts are awarded as far as, you know, what needs to be built and this and that. I haven't seen any public notice or bids pending or anything in that fashion. So that was my question.
Okay, is that
well,
your
that
last?
was two of my questions.
Okay, is that your last question, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. City Manager, would you like to respond to that?
I'm not sure what water rate increase we'd be talking about. We haven't raised the water rates recently. The last time was when the council had approved that water rate increase. The roadway that we most recently repaired was bid out and awarded and completed, went through the normal bidding process. All of our projects for bid are published on the city's website, as well as in the trade publications, and so we follow those procedures, and contracts are awarded by the city council.
If I may.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead and address me, please.
Oh, in reference to repair, it's basically a patch in a hole. I mean, it's asphalt
Correct.
rolled over in a hole.
Correct.
Which dilapidates, as you're well aware, and it's not a fix. I mean, it's a Band-Aid, for lack of a better term.
Correct.
So I'm assuming there's a better way to go about this. Now, you can call that a repair, you can call it fixed, but it's not fixed.
Okay. Is that a... I'm sorry? Absolutely, go ahead.
As far as our water rate increase, those monies are used strictly to replace water lines, not to repair the roads. So
Yeah, excuse me for interrupting, but I have no knowledge where the monies go. I just know.
That's why we're letting you know now that none of those monies go to repair of roads. It's strictly to replace water lines. That was the purpose of the rate increase.
Okay, if I may.
Sure.
In the process of replacing the water lines, you dig up the asphalt, and it's chimp shot at best. I mean, as far as putting it back to normal.
Okay. Was that your last comment or question, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If you have a seat, I'll have the Public Works Director chime in also, please.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for commenting.
So as we all know, funding for local streets and roads is a very challenging thing. SB1 has actually, if it stays going, is supposed to accumulate somewhere between $600,000 and $700,000 this year. Last year, I believe we received only in the $60,000 range, which was supposed to be about just under $500,000. The water lines that are cut by the water crews are repaired by, and just patched, and he's correct, by the city streets department. So they perform those patches behind the water crew, and he's right, they're just patches. So the hope is, in which we brought a large project list to the city council for local streets and roads. So we're really hoping that we actually, the state fulfills and actually we receive those funds, then we'll actually do road actual rebuild.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to public comment?
Mayor Pro Tem Council, Ron Smith. As we discuss, I'm excited to hear that there are 6 potential officers that are in the pipeline. I would again ask that council would consider, for all of our public safety folks, to do something to give an incentive for our public safety folks to stay and new public safety folks to come. And it was a public safety tax that was passed. I would encourage you to do something to immediately encourage folks to get our wages up to a decent standard to attract these folks. I don't want to embarrass any of our citizens. One of the fixtures at our city council meeting was in an accident tonight, and there's already been another individual that's here that has offered to kick in some money to help replace a vehicle for him. If this is something you'd be interested in, don't know what kind of interest that we would have here, but if you'd see me on this and can give you some details on that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. I don't know. Anyone else needs to?
Good evening, Mary Wadey speaking. I have a couple questions for
The city manager, don't know if he has any answers, but one of my questions has to do with the economic development specialist. I know they had that position. They spoke about it at the East Current Economic Alliance. I wondered if you know who was hired for that position for the California City, Boron, Mojave, and Roseman group.
Ms. Wade, address the questions this way, please.
I'm sorry. The second question I have for the city manager is, what's the status on the CHC Holdings, the manufacturing property that's out by Silver Saddles? They were supposed to be done by April, but they had some delays, so they were still working on it. So I'm wondering what the status is of it. And the third question for you is, the question is the business there's a facility going up at the airport near the storage facility. What business is that?
Is that your last question?
No, I have another comment.
Okay.
This one is for Craig Platt. It has to do, there's a bad water leak. I don't know if somebody reported it already.
This way, ma'am.
At the city park, and when you go over the bridge and it's behind the Lakeshore Inn, the water meter there is running really bad because it's kind of flooding out that little island that's over there. After you cross the bridge, and then the Lakeshore Inn behind it has the little island where people go fishing. So it was really flooded when I last saw it, and it's coming up out of the water meter. So those are my 4 at the moment.
Okay. Hi, Mr. City Manager.
Economic development project that you're talking about is the one funded by a grant to Kern County that is hired 3 economic development.
Excuse me. You're going to have a seat, ma'am.
I'm still with my 1 minute and 8 seconds on my question.
All right, but that was your last question, correct?
Nope, I don't know. It depends on what his answer is.
I know, but we're not going to have a dialogue.
Correct? Okay, I'm 3 minutes. I have 1 minute and 8 seconds. Going.
Go ahead, sir.
So the Kern County did the interviews. I think the mayor sat on the interview panels, and the person selected for Cal City, Mojave, Rosamond, and Boron was Alexia from the Chamber of Commerce. So she will be working, I understand, in both as a volunteer, continue as a volunteer for the Chamber, and then working full-time on the economic development for this part of the county. TAC Holdings is going through the final stages of testing and getting their business up to operate, and we don't have a date on when they will actually go into operation. I'm not sure what business at the airport that you're referring to, but the only new businesses at the airport are cannabis-related businesses. I think the Aero Aviation manufacturing facility is nearing the point where they're ready to go into operation. They recently had an inspection by the Bureau's Cannabis Control, and those are the only ones I'm aware of there. So,
Mr. Platt, would you like to comment on the leak that she stated? Or you don't have any responses?
I wouldn't have any information unless it was something directed.
Yeah, maybe
if
maybe
they're
you get more
reported,
detail, you can set up a meeting with
is
Mr. Platt.
Anytime you spot one is to actually call and report that.
Correct.
That's how we find most of them, because
Correct.
they're a lot smaller than they used to be. Thank goodness.
Oh, okay, thank you, Mr. Platt. Thank you, Ms. Wadey.
Okay, my comment on Mr. Platt is, well, I'm reporting it now since he doesn't know anything about it, that there was a leak bad coming from the water meter there at the park. Once you cross over the bridge from the tennis court, cross over the bridge, and there's a landing, an island area there, and that whole area, there's a water meter that's leaking bad in that one. It's behind the Lakeshore Inn. But once you come over the bridge and you look to your right, you'll see the water meter leaking.
I think the process is for Ms. Wadey to report it, correct?
I know the process. I'm just making it known today.
Okay.
Okay. But my other comment for the city manager has to do, there's a metal, I saw the metal frame of a building going up earlier this week, and it's next door to the used storage before you turn into Foxy's. It's right there. You can't miss it. So I was wondering, what business is that? What's the name? Who those people are? Do you know by chance?
Mr. City Manager?
I don't know.
No.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Wadey.
Thank you.
Anyone else who wish to public comment? No one else? Okay, so we will move into consent calendar. All items on the consent calendar are considered routine and non-controversial and will be approved by one motion if no member of the council, staff, or public wishes to comment or ask questions. Public comments must to be limited to 3 minutes, and roll call is required. Anyone who wish to comment on consent?
Check number 103,791. That's for $1,814.70.
103.91, sir, you said?
791.
Oh, 103.
That was a internal investigation or an investigation done on a complaint involving one of our police officers. The investigation resulted in the complaint being unfounded.
Oh, thank you. 103,799. That's that full spectrum again. Why is the city using an out-of-state engineer, and how did the city make the determination to use a Utah firm instead of one here that's fully licensed in California? Because Full Spectrum, as we have said before, is not licensed in California.
Is that your last question, sir?
Oh, no.
Okay, please go ahead and do. So this is 103,799. What else, sir?
103,813. This is going to Jones and Mayer on cannabis for $9,751.52. The question here is, are we merely collecting money from the investors without the opportunity to go forward with the development of their projects, meaning infrastructure, water, electricity, and such? Or are we just taking their money and giving it to Jones and Mayer? And the next one is 103,815. That was for KME for $31,621.89. We had the big paperweight there. Why are we putting more money into it?
Yeah.
And those are my questions. Could I have my answers?
I'll start backwards on it because I won't forget it. The KME payment, as the council will remember, the city's say it out loud. I'm going to hear it. Yeah. So our backup engine was taken to KME during the time that we had, and it was a major work done to bring it back up to speed. They delayed their billing until it was finally, actually it's been several months since we got it back, and so for whatever reason they delayed the billing. So that covers all of the major rebuild work that was done on the engine that was our backup engine, which has kept us going since it came back, and so it was all part of that. The real question is, are we just charging cannabis fees so that we can fatten the wallets of different people? The answer is no. But there are costs involved in every element of that process. Our fees are dramatically less than any other community that I've heard about. The fee in Lancaster is $69,000 per permittee, and the vetting process is substantially more. And so as we go through all of the various elements of analyzing the issues that arise, there is a need for legal assistance, and so that's part of the ongoing process. The Full Spectrum Incorporated has been asked and answered several times. It's the same group, the same contract, based on the same decisions of selecting them to do the work at the time. So there's been no change other than we continue to do complete the work that they have in place. They are not required to have a license in California, and they are not the only outside of California engineering firm operating in California throughout the state.
Thank you, sir.
But the question wasn't answered. Why are we using them in the first place? That was not answered.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to comment?
I have a comment on that. Full spectrum, Mr. Platt. Isn't that just software work? Is my understanding of it?
He was issued a couple of work orders. One was to maintain the technical things beyond my expertise in the SCADA. Also was we're working still on the sewer plant and also on the water rate study.
All right, so that
which does not require a California license to do.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anyone else wish to public comment? All right, anyone, council? Any questions?
Question I have on the checks is last week we got a check we issued a check to Victoria Espinola for the
refund. Right?
Refund on a cannabis dispensary. And the letter we got from the city manager said that that was the only one. So I just hope that we don't see any more because they said that was the only one that they issued.
We issued the refund because they came in, I think it was in February, when I had inadvertently or incorrectly indicated that we would take applications for dispensaries. And then they and several others had put in the applications, and we closed it down when I found that the council had not authorized that. And for whatever reason, they failed to ask for the refund until just recently. The others were refunded very shortly after we told them that we would not be taking applications.
But your letter says that they were the only ones that we took money, and now you're saying something different, that the others were refunded. So what is your letter correct, or what you're saying now is correct?
Both are correct, Mr. Stump.
Mr. Stockwell, I was called this week and told that K2 also paid money for a dispensary permit. Could we see if we had refunded them or not, or whether that is factual or not?
I'll check that out and report it back to the council.
Great. Thank you, sir.
Councilman McGuire, any questions or anything? No? Nothing else?
I have one more for Mr. Platt again. It's check 103840 on page 7, Fremont Valley IR. We issued 3 checks for a total of $144,567.44. Is that our last payment of the $800,000 and $841,000 that we're required to pay? Do you know?
I know we're really close to the end of the road of the whole process. I would have to get an accounting from finance to actually see how many have been cut. But the contract is within the original contract of the roughly $840,000 to date. I don't know of overages. We are responding to questions when the plan was put out for review, which some of that was done by the city attorney. So there could be something tied to the response, but it wouldn't. Nothing under that contract still. It's outside of that.
It was because I read somewhere in the rate study that the state had quit paying as of July 28th. They were not going to reimburse any more of the funds. Did you see that statement?
Yeah, but it doesn't pertain to the contracts we have, and we also have a DAC, which is roughly around $160,000, and that's in progress too. And those funds are still committed.
Great, thank you very much.
Any other questions? Nothing? Christian, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, people can't hear us at home, so they're asking if we can all speak into the mics more.
Okay. Christian, do you know if C2 is related to cannabis? I didn't see anything in it. It is? Okay, I'll abstain from that. Okay, I'm just making sure. I didn't see anything related to cannabis in the literature. Okay, if no other questions, do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
Madam Clerk?
Councilmember McGuire?
Yes.
Paris?
Yes.
Stump?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Gomez?
With the exception of C2, I will abstain from that. Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. And now we will move into council agenda. This portion of the meeting is reserved for council members to present information, announcements, and items that have come to their attention. The Brown Act precludes council staff for public discussion. Short staff responses are appropriate. The council will take no formal action. A council member may request the city clerk to calendar an item for consideration at a future meeting or refer an item to staff. Councilman Paris?
Yes. This is either for Mr. Stockwell or our city attorney. Have we had any new lawsuits filed or brought to us that council should be made aware of?
I believe there was a claim filed within the last 2 weeks. I believe that's the case. I can look it up though.
Thank you. That's if you would, please.
Anything else? Councilman McGuire?
It was good turnout at the park for the concert in the park. Just remember everything. We're coming up towards trick-or-treat time. So if you're out and about, please be careful because a lot of the kids, and I'm talking the smaller ones, they're too interested in getting candy. Other than that, no matter how you vote, please get out and vote November 6th. A lot of men and women died to preserve that right for you. That's all I got.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Stump?
Nothing, Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay. So can I have a motion to adjourn?
I make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.